Welcome back. So now we've got our cake layers stacked and ready to carve, and I'll show you how to carve this into a pumpkin. So first off, we're going to start off with a straight edged knife. I know a lot of people would think automatically that we wanted a serrated one or one with little teeth or something so that it could cut into the cake, but what you really want to make sure that you do is get a straight edged one. Not only will that cut through your icing really well, but your cake is already pretty solid from being in the refrigerator. You want to make sure you start off with a cooled, refrigerated cake, and that way there'll be just less mess and less crumbs. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I've got this paper towel damp, and I'm going to run it onto my knife and get my knife kind of damp too. And that way it's going to slide through easier and just have a little bit less mess. I've got two different kinds of knives. I've got a smaller one and a longer one. Longer one for the bigger edges and pieces, and the smaller one for detailed work. So we're going to scoot this out a little bit in front of us. There we go, and we're going to start carving. So if I look at my picture again, I've got, some little pumpkin ridges on here. But first what I want to do is just make sure that I get my angle right for getting kind of a rounded look to my cake. So I'm just going to start by trimming off just at an angle till I get to the center piece, these edges. And you can kind of see it's just going right through everything. That's really great. So now it's getting kind of messy. So I'm going to take my wet paper towel again, wipe my blade, which kind of cleans it off. And you can have two paper towels if you want, one to clean off and one to wipe with the water, which is what I think I'll do. Get this one wet. There we go. So I've got one to clean off and one to get kind of damp. And we'll just keep going. You want to try as hard as you can to keep that edge, that angle that you're carving with all the way around. But if you don't, that's completely fine, because that's what our icing is for. Our icing is going to help smooth out all the parts that aren't so pretty, or maybe we messed up a little bit. And again, like I said, we're doing a pumpkin, and he's supposed to be lumpy and messy and things like that. Now, you don't have to worry about all this cake that you're carving off. You're not going to get rid of it. You're not going to throw it out. You can crumble it up and use it as cake pops or cake bites or something yummy like that. And especially these pieces that have icing already in them, then that, just makes the cake even yummier with that chocolate icing in there. Okay, we've got our basic top part here. Now we're going to work on the bottom. And again, this is just a rough cut. I'm going to go back with my smaller knife, and I'm going to use that to detail up some of this. Okay, we've got cleaned off, get it wet again. There we go. And now we're going to go to the bottom here. So we're going to start again at an angle, pointed down towards our bottom piece of our cake there. And we don't have to carve too much into it. We want to have a nice base. Let's turn this guy. We want to have a nice base to it so it doesn't fall apart on us or tip over or something like that, which would be just a disaster. And so that's why sometimes I like carving better than using an already shaped pan, just because they tend to get too small on their bases and things can fall apart on you. So you want to make sure that you have a very nice sturdy base to this, and then all your work and effort is not undone. Okay, so we're almost done here, carving all the way around. Got some nice yummy pieces of extra cake, and my family will definitely hover when I do things like this. And so some of these extra cake scraps are good bribery tools. that you can go around and say, hey, back up. Here's a little piece, and now back up and move away. Okay, so now that we've got our basic shape here, I'm kind of going back over it and just getting those little edges and pieces that I don't like. You can use your large knife, or you can use your small knife for, you know, even more detail. Just kind of shaving it some more here. Getting these edges that just really want to not be rounded, but we're gonna make them rounded. And then we can always go back with our icing and smooth things out, cover things up exactly how we want it to be. Okay, we are almost there. And if some pieces want to come off, you know, you can let them come off, or you can pull them out a little bit, take some of your icing from your bag and pipe it in there and then stick that back in there. The only reason why I really wouldn't recommend that is because later when you go to cut the cake and serve it, it's gonna fall apart when you cut it up, and you really don't want that either. So I really don't like cutting pieces and pasting them onto my cake or things like that. It's just, it's not gonna be useful for when you carve or when you cut up this cake to serve to your friends and family and things like that. Okay, so we've pretty much got the sides all done. I'm gonna carve off a little bit more of the top here to make my rounded top pieces. And just carving all of that. Okay, that looks good. Let me step back here and just see. Yep, this is a really good pumpkin shape. And I'm just gonna push this guy, move him around a little bit, and just try and test and see, are there any spots that are really bad that need more stability or something? And he seems really, really good. So I'm gonna clean all this up. We're gonna do a little more detailed carving, and then we're gonna put on our icing, our crumb coat as it's called, and get this guy closer to looking like a pumpkin.